There was once a wise woman who was traveling alone in the mountains. As she made her way across rocks and through the woods, she came upon a stream. And in that stream, she found a precious stone. Her heart filled with gratitude at this wonderful find. The next day, she came across a man who was also traveling through the mountains. The man had run out of food and was very hungry. The wise woman offered to share her food with the man. She had enough. However, when the woman opened her bag to get out the food, the man saw that precious stone inside. "Wait," he said. "Instead of food, would you give me that stone?" "Of course," the woman replied, without hesitation. The hungry man couldn't believe his luck. With this stone, he'd be able to buy all of his favorite foods. He could not wait to feast. He left quickly before the woman could change her mind. Just 2 days later, the man reappeared, still carrying that precious stone. There hadn't been a feast yet. "I want you to take it back," he said. "Instead, could you give me whatever it is inside you that made it so easy for you to give away this precious stone? For whatever that is, it is even more precious than the stone itself." Unfortunately, the story ends there. I know, I want a few more lines. So we never get to find out what it is that made that woman so generous. We never find out why it was just easy for her to give that stone away to a complete stranger who she had never met, who she had just met for the very first time. We never find out if she's able to honor that man's request and share with him whatever it was inside of her that made her so generous. If the story just had a couple more lines, we wouldn't need the rest of my sermon. So we just have to wonder together, what is it that makes us generous? How can we see abundance and at the same time have no attachment to it? What is it that motivates each of us to give of ourselves to others? Probably more than one thing. When we get down to it, there's definitely something about abundance in there, right? We've been talking about it all month, so there's something about that. And there's probably something about gratitude, which is fitting for these days just before Thanksgiving. But perhaps even more than that, there's something about the effect of giving on the giver. As spiritual teacher Dayani Yawahu says, when we are feeling the poorest, it's time to give a gift. There are times when the very act of giving can actually make us feel more abundant. So I hardly ever got into trouble as a kid. I know you're all surprised. But that means I remember every time in stark detail. I can tell you about all of them sometime if you want. And one time when I was 6 or 7 years old, my dad had taken my brother and I out to try to get my mom birthday gifts. I don't remember exactly what it was that my brother did that got on my dad's nerves, but I do remember what I did. I had found this beautiful box with a sun on the lid that I thought my mom would love. And I fretted just a little too much about how expensive it was. It was one of those situations where I had saved up like $13. which was a big deal when you're 6 or 7. And that box cost 11, right? Something like that. And I wasn't sure about spending that much of my savings on a gift. Eventually, my dad took us home, both without gifts, and gave us a bit of a lecture about generosity in the car. When we got home, I felt so guilty that I spent the rest of that evening making my mom a gift. I have no memory of what I made, but I know I made something. And I remember that as I made it, I thought to myself, you know, this would fit really well into that box that I found. And as I poured my little 6 or 7-year-old heart into making that gift, my heart actually grew. And I decided that maybe I could afford that beautiful box after all. And so the next night, my dad took me out again, and we got the box, and I felt so proud and happy when I gave it to my mom the next week. I'm pretty sure she still uses it. In this case, I had to discover generosity by practicing it first. And then I realized that being generous actually made me feel really good. The more I gave, the more abundance I felt, and the more I was willing to give. Have you had this experience? I see some nods. I think this is even more true with less tangible items that we give away. In some cases, we actually don't have anything at all until we start to give. So love is the most obvious example of this, as we heard in our Wonder Box song today. Love is something, if you give it away, you end up having more. You see, love is fundamentally relational. It literally does not exist until we give it away. If I were to say, I have so much love, here it is, here's my love, but I'm keeping it, all for myself. If I never actually loved someone, it wouldn't exist. Love only exists when we offer it to a person, a community, or a cause. I always credit my college friend Katie for teaching me about what it looks like to love abundantly. Katie loved the world with seemingly boundless enthusiasm and always wore her heart on her sleeve. Before I met Katie, I would never have even thought to say I love you to a friend. To be honest, I barely said it to my own family. I come from Minnesota, after all, where 20 below zero is a bit chilly, and being too enthusiastic about anything raises suspicions. But Katie used that phrase, I love you, with such ease. Not that she ever used it lightly or without thought. She was never anything but genuine about her love. She was just so comfortable saying it. I am still somewhat in awe of this. Somehow, Katie, who was only 21, already knew that love was abundant, and she had no fear of giving it away. She was like that speaker in the poem that Alec read for us, declaring her love for even the most unlikely of people. She knew that in giving that love away, she simply had more and more and more love in her life. And it was true. You couldn't help but love Katie because she loved you without questions and always let you know. Have you ever met someone like that? There's a few of them in this world. That kind of person who just jumps into life and love seemingly without fear. The kind of person who gives their love and trust and friendship away with no hesitation at all because somehow they know that none of these things are actually in short supply. Love is something, if you give it away, you end up having more. It was not until Katie died that I really understood how much she had taught me about the abundance of love. And there was a moment after she died that I thought that was the end of abundant love, too. You see, I was a slow learner. I believed that Katie was the ultimate source of abundant love, that she was the only one. We know that's not true. I didn't realize yet that any of us, in fact, all of us, could be the source. But in my grief, I discovered a whole community of love, of those who had cared about Katie as much as I had and had been touched by her life. And slowly I realized that if I reached out, if I too gave away my love freely, my life would also be filled with the abundant love that I thought was just a Katie phenomenon. I'm still learning to do this. I'm pretty sure that I always will be. Maybe you've figured it out, good for you. But it doesn't come naturally to me. And I think there's a lot of us that it doesn't come naturally to. We wonder, is there enough love if I give it away? So how do we get there? That answer that the story didn't tell us? How do we practice abundant love? How do we practice giving of ourselves? There's a famous story about Zen master Nakagawa Roshi. It's very short. A student approached Nakagawa Roshi and said, "I am very discouraged. What should I do?" Roshi replied with just 2 words: encourage others. And isn't it true? When you are feeling unloved, it helps to love. When you are feeling beat down by the world, it helps to give someone else a pep talk. When you are dealing with someone who seems like they have walled off their heart, it helps to open your heart to them. I always figured that this was the genesis of the Free Hugs campaign. Someone thought, I feel disconnected from my fellow human beings. How can I foster connection? And actually, that's not far from the truth. If you don't know the story, the Free Hugs campaign was started in 2004 by a man in Australia who goes by the pseudonym Juan Man. Juan was struggling with his life. He felt depressed and lonely and disconnected from the rest of the world. But his life changed one night when a stranger at a party came up and gave him a hug out of nowhere. And he says he felt like a king. When Juan first took a free hug sign out in public, some were not surprisingly distrustful of his motives. It took him a good 15 minutes before an elderly woman came up to him and gave him a hug. In the days and months that followed, he was joined by others, and eventually his efforts made it onto YouTube, which is how you spread something, as a music video. This video has gotten millions of views, and the notion of giving out free hugs as a cure for our disconnection has spread all around the world. So in this spirit of abundance and giving, I'm going to offer you a challenge. And I'm going to get out of the pulpit to do it. How does that sound? I am going to pass around a bunch of stickers and markers. Each sheet has 3 stickers on it, so you can share. You can practice abundant giving right away. And I want you to think about something that you could offer to others. You might not be a hugger. That's okay. So free hugs might not be your thing. But perhaps for you, it's free high fives. Can you give out free high fives today? Or maybe it's free conversation. You're happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk. Or maybe you're going to give out free pep talks. I bet there's someone out here who could use that today. What do you think? Think about something that you have an abundance of, or maybe something that you want an abundance of. Maybe you're the one who needs the pep talk, so you're going to offer free pep talks and see if that helps you. So I'm going to start passing these around, and Alex is going to help me. And there's limited markers, so sharing, again, is a part of this exercise. And then once you've written something on your sticker, I'm going to invite you to wear it, at least in fellowship hour today. That's not too hard, right? Because you all know that I've asked you to do this, so you're not going to go out into the world. People won't think you're weird. It'll be okay. See what it's like for you. How does offering 5 high fives lift your heart? How does offering hugs make you feel cozy? And maybe, here's the extra challenge, if you're feeling up to it. If you are going to have Thanksgiving dinner with others this week, you might think about wearing your sticker there. What would that be like? What if you offered free high fives to all your relatives? How would they feel? It's a good question, right? Or at least going. If you don't want to wear your sticker, I know, that's okay. At least going to that meal with the same spirit of giving and abundance. We need one another to be reminded of the abundance that we have within us, of the abundance of this world. We need to give to others to remind ourselves of all that has been given to us. So let's practice this abundance, starting here, starting today, starting together. And our choir is going to give us a little pep talk with a song.